You have hobbies, the hobbies of a nerd. Would you,
I do, yes.
Henry Cavill isn't just fighting monsters on screen anymore. He's now going head-to-head with Amazon and their so-called woke agenda. That's right, the man who has lived and breathed Warhammer 40k for years is now clashing with the streaming giant over controversial franchise changes. Amazon thought they could quietly slip in female custodies and change the storyline to fit their own narrative. But Henry, he's not having it. He's ready to protect the world he loves from being changed. Henry isn't just any actor stepping into the Warhammer universe. For years, he's been a die-hard fan, collecting the figures, painting them meticulously by hand, and immersing himself in decades of deep lore. Warhammer is more than just a job for him, it's a passion. So when Amazon approached him to produce and star in their Warhammer 40k series, it wasn't just another role, it was a dream come true. As an executive producer, Henry has a significant amount of creative control, and his vision was clear: bring the Warhammer universe to life while staying true to the lore that fans, including himself, hold dear. But here's where it gets complicated. If you think this is Henry's first battle with a studio, no. Remember The Witcher?
She knew you'd come.
Where's Renfrey?
She's at the tower with your little friend, Marilka.
He walked away from that series after Netflix repeatedly pushed their own agenda. Now it seems like history is repeating itself with Amazon. Warhammer 40k is even more personal to him, and seeing Amazon try to force in changes, like the inclusion of female custodies, goes against everything the original lore stands for. It's no wonder Henry is pushing back. This isn't just business. This is about preserving the heart and soul of a world he loves. Henry Cavill's dedication to creating a faithful adaptation of Warhammer 40k stems from a deep-seated passion, not just a paycheck. However, this dedication is now clashing with Amazon's agenda. This is a common tactic in Hollywood these days: force diversity into projects to appear progressive and inclusive, regardless of whether it fits the narrative. This trend of wokeness isn't driven by a genuine desire to reflect the real world or to tell richer stories. It's about optics. Studios are obsessed with boasting their forward-thinking, inclusive credentials, even if it means compromising the integrity of beloved franchises. They fear backlash from vocal minorities on social media, yet in their attempt to avoid controversy, they estrange the true fans. Those who have invested in these stories not just for entertainment, but as part of their cultural identity. Diversity for the sake of diversity isn't progress. It's superficial and hollow, particularly when it undermines the original vision of the creators. It turns storytelling into a checkbox exercise, less about art and more about meeting corporate targets. And for a devotee like Cavill, who sees Warhammer as more than just a series but as a piece of cultural heritage, these changes are not just disappointing, they're a betrayal of the legacy he vowed to protect.
If it were to ever happen, if there were to be anything live action, I would have to be very aware of that. It is obviously character-rich, especially the 40k universe. I suppose I could play a different character from the Warhammer.
Henry Cavill, being the die-hard Warhammer fan that he is, couldn't hold back his frustration any longer. This wasn't just some minor adjustment. It was a full-blown attack on the very foundation of Warhammer's lore, something Cavill holds in the highest regard. He's been down this road before. He endured the same nonsense while working on The Witcher for Netflix, where the original story was constantly twisted and modernized to fit a woke narrative. But more on that later. Now it seems Amazon is pulling the same stunt with Warhammer, and Henry's patience is running out. And it's not just Henry who's furious. The Warhammer fanbase, known for its unwavering loyalty, exploded with outrage. The introduction of female custodies wasn't just a small deviation. It was a massive rewrite that completely disregarded decades of cherished lore. Fans wasted no time in expressing their anger, flooding social media with criticisms aimed at both Amazon and Games Workshop for allowing such a blatant rewrite just to satisfy a political agenda. for a community that lives and breathes Warhammer's universe, seeing the lore tampered with in such a way felt like a slap in the face. The backlash was so severe that it even had a financial impact. Games Workshop stock took a hit as outraged fans began boycotting the company, appalled that they would let Amazon meddle with something so sacred. This wasn't just about adding female characters, it was about respect. Fans had poured years of passion, time, and money into this universe, and they wanted nothing less than an authentic adaptation. The message was clear: Warhammer fans weren't interested in a version of their beloved world tainted by forced diversity. With Henry and the fans united in their opposition, Amazon is facing mounting pressure. They likely thought they could make these changes without much resistance, but they vastly underestimated how deeply people care about Warhammer. Now the real question is, how far is Henry willing to go to protect this? Rumors are already swirling that Cavill may have pulled the plug on the entire Warhammer 40k project.
Company command! This is first platoon! We've lost the square! We can't hold it!
That's right. There's word going around that Henry, fed up with Amazon's interference, has taken matters into his own hands and shut the whole thing down. While there's no official confirmation yet, it wouldn't be shocking considering Cavill's reputation for standing up for the integrity of the source material. For him, this isn't just another gig, it's a passion project. He's made it clear time and time again how crucial it is to stay true to the lore, whether it's Warhammer, The Witcher, or anything else he's involved in. Let's remember that Henry Cavill has shown before that he's not afraid to leave a big project if things go sideways. Take The Witcher as an example. Right from the start, Henry was adamant about keeping the show true to Andrzej Sapkowski's original books. But Netflix had other ideas. They didn't just want to adapt the story, they wanted to reshape it, adding their own modern twists and completely ignoring the core of what made the story special. Behind the scenes, Henry was often at odds with the writers and producers. He pushed hard against their changes, especially when they disrespected the original lore. There were even whispers that some of the show's writers mocked the source material, which Henry couldn't just sit back and watch happen. Despite his best efforts to steer things right, it seemed like nobody was listening.
I've lived through 3 supposed end of days. It's all horseshit.
For instance, let's talk about what they did in Season 2 with Eskel, a character beloved by fans of the books. In the original story, Eskel is one of Geralt's closest allies, a fellow Witcher with a deep backstory. But in the show, they killed him off early, turning him into just another forgettable character. Fans were livid, and Henry was right there with them, deeply upset over how they'd butchered Eskel's character. Then there's the whole thing with Yennefer. In the books, she's a powerful, independent sorceress, a force of nature. But Netflix changed her story, making her seem more dependent and altering her motivations in a way that just didn't feel right. These changes messed with one of the central relationships in the series, the bond between Geralt and Yennefer. Henry, who's a big fan of the lore himself, was really not pleased with these changes. He did everything he could to keep the show's integrity, but the producers kept pushing their own agenda. Eventually, when it became clear that Netflix would continue to alter the story, Henry chose to leave. The fans were heartbroken but understood his reasons. They knew he was standing up for what he believed was right. And now, doesn't this mess with Warhammer seem eerily similar to what went down with The Witcher? This time around, the stakes are through the roof. The similarities to the Witcher fiasco are glaring, and if history tells us anything, Cavill might be close to walking away from Warhammer 40k as well. But if Cavill walks, it's pretty much game over for the Warhammer project. Let's face it, without Cavill's dedication to keeping the story real, there's no way Amazon can pull this off. Cavill's exit could spell disaster, turning this into yet another Hollywood project wrecked by the push for woke politics. Cavill has consistently shown he's not afraid to push back against these changes, and it's clear he won't let Amazon mess up Warhammer without putting up a serious fight. But wait, there's a twist. Rumors are swirling that it's not just Cavill who's fed up. Some key members of the Warhammer production team are also unhappy with Amazon's meddling and might just walk out with him. If that happens, this project could collapse before it even begins, leaving Amazon in a mad scramble to save a sinking ship. Should Henry Cavill stand his ground and protect the Warhammer universe from Amazon's agenda? Or is Amazon justified in pushing for more diversity, even at the cost of the original lore? Drop a comment below and let's get this conversation started.